Hello kids, this is Mr. Whistler, and this is your video lesson of the day. Today we're going to be talking about the battles of New York and New Jersey. Now, most of the battles up to this point, very few troops have been involved. If you think about Lexington and Concord, they probably had 2,000 combined in that battle. You think about the Battle of Bunker Hill, there's 1,200 Patriots and 2,200 British, and half of those British died trying to take the hill. So the British were tired of this, and they decided to quit messing around, and they brought in more troops. So in the summer of 1776, the British sent more troops to America under their commander, General William Howe. So for the Battle of Long Island, there were 32,000 British versus 20,000 Patriots. Now the Patriots have been pretty cocky up to this point. They, if you think about the Stamp Act protests, the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, they weren't backing down from the British, and they were, when they were protesting in the streets, they were screaming, only Americans can tax Americans. So they're ready to take it to them, and they've been doing a pretty good job so far. So for the Battle of Long Island, the British, as you know, are strong when they are fighting out in the open. That's where they made their reputation, and that's where they're the best in the world. The Americans, on the other hand, like to use guerrilla warfare. They like to hide behind rocks and trees. That's where they're strong. The Americans are not a professional army, and they are not as strong as the British out in the open. But for this battle, they decided to go toe-to-toe with the British, and it was a mistake. The Patriots were outnumbered, and they were outmaneuvered. And even though they fought bravely, the Patriots were short on supplies, and they lost. Now, there was one hero that came out of this battle, and his name was Nathan Hale. He was a Connecticut school teacher who volunteered to spy on the British at Long Island. This is kind of weird, but he actually disguised himself as a Dutch school teacher. I guess he just used a Dutch accent. Well, he was caught, and when the enemy catches spies, they execute them, so he was hung. Well, his last words are kind of famous, and he said, "I regret that I have but one life to lose for my country." And he meant if he could do this all over again, he would, even though he knew the outcome. So this cause was very important to the Patriots, and Nathan Hale really showed it with his last words. Now, as the British were walking around after this battle and tending to their wounded, they started noticing the condition that the American soldiers were in. They noticed that they didn't have blankets. They noticed that a lot of them didn't have shoes or socks. And this was summertime. So when winter set in, if they didn't get more supplies, they were going to be in kind of bad shape. So they were that winter. The winter of 1776, the Patriots were near collapse. The size of the army shrunk. And as terms of enlistment ended, soldiers went home. And others who didn't just felt horrible. They were starving. They were freezing. They didn't have shoes. Now, as cocky and confident as they were when the war started, at this point, they were at an all-time low. They were about ready to lose the war, and they just wanted to go home. So some of them just left and deserted. So Washington, he got worried about this, and he wasn't exactly sure what was going to happen. So the Patriots were humbled. They were hungry, cold, and beat down. We're hungry and cold, and our enlistment is over. We're going home. So, as you know, armies did not fight in the wintertime. So, the British left some troops in New Jersey, in a couple of cities, Trenton and Princeton. In Washington, his camp was across the Delaware River, and he could actually look over and see the British on the other side of the river. Well, one day, he was just standing out there, and he got to thinking. And he thought that, he was thinking about not fighting in the wintertime, but it was around Christmas time. And he was looking over at the British soldiers, and he started thinking to himself, they're going to be partying at Christmas. I'm going to attack them. So he saw a chance to catch the British off guard. Since it was Christmas, the British would not expect it. So what he did is he gathered up all the boats in the area that he could find, and on Christmas Eve, those British soldiers were partying, and so on Christmas night, after they'd been partying for a day and a half, he snuck his army across the Delaware River, and this is a famous painting of him crossing the Delaware, and he takes 2,400 troops across on Christmas night. He surrounded the Hessian mercenaries and captured 900 to 1,000 of them. They weren't in any shape to fight, and they were completely caught by surprise. So then he marches to Princeton and does the same thing there too. So by that time, the British had heard what he had done, and they got another force to go after him, but by the time they got there, he had disappeared into the forest. So keep in mind that Washington was able to win key battles, and he was able to trick the enemy. He was good at it. So after the battle, one discouraged British soldier said this: "A few days ago, the Americans had given up the cause for lost. Their late successes have turned the scale, and now they're all liberty mad again." Well, remember how they were feeling before this. They were all down and out, and they were going home, and they were deserting. But after these two battles, they got all pumped up again, and this guy said they're liberty mad, so they're probably talking trash again.